Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Since we are on many different time zones, I welcome you all for the second session at our conference. We have three talks at this session. This will be very interesting review reports. Reporting on two of them will report on the major developments in Europe, and one from the Department of Energy in the United States. As we know, DOE is the major force shaping the future and the developments of supercomputing in the world. And of course, we have now very strong new initiatives in Europe, which is EuroHPC joint undertaking, and also European Processor Initiative. We'll have reports on both of those initiatives. And as the first speaker of our session, we welcome Dam Jensen, who is the Executive Director of the European High Performance Computing Joint Undertaking. Dam Jensen has a lifelong interest in supercomputers dating from his time in university. He started his professional career with 10 years of engineering work developing computing hardware, firmware, and software for embedded systems. He pioneered IEEE 802.11 wireless network technology in the 90s while working for Symbol Technologies. After a decade working with hardcore engineering and product development, Anders shifted into management, and he joined Cargolux Airlines International as director of IT. Over the next decade, Anders was instrumental in the spin-off of the Cargolux IT department to Champ Cargo Systems SA. With Anders as CTO, Champ Cargo Systems grew to become the largest supplier of IT services to the air cargo industry. In 2011, Anders was selected as the Director ICTM for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, responsible for all information and IT services, as well as one of the largest classified networks in Europe. In 2020, Anders was appointed as Executive Director for the European High Performance Computing Joint Undertaking, a joint initiative between EU, European countries, and private partners to develop a world-class supercomputing ecosystem in Europe with a proposed budget of €1 billion. Anders holds a Master's of Science degree as well as Master's of Business Administration degree from Technical University of Denmark. He is based in Luxembourg, married to Mette, and has 2 children. Anders, welcome.
So, can you hear me? Yes, I assume you can. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to join this conference. I'm really delighted to give you all an update on EuroHPC. A lot of things have happened, including within the last hour, so I'll follow up on that. But it's really, this has been an extremely interesting ride so far. I'll give you all an update on where we have been, where we're going to, and what's happening. So, essentially, my plan is to give you an update on the JU itself, as well as the procurements that we are currently handling. Then I also want to give all of you a bit of an insight into these machines, how to get access to the machines. An update also on the various research and innovation calls, and then, most importantly, a view into the future. The new regulation I'll be touching on that a number of times. And as I said, there's late breaking news because it has just been published in the official journal. So it is imminent that it's going to get into force, which is really good news for the JU and for HPC in Europe in general. So, but I do think it's worth I know there's a lot of people out there that already know who EuroHPC is, but I do think it is worth just taking the time to recall so we all are on the same page. Essentially, EuroHPC joint undertaking is a legal and funding entity, and it was actually established in 2018 and was run by the Commission, with DG Connect doing a lot of the initial work. And it is, I do think it is important. While I have the pleasure and joy of seeing this through, this is only possible because of the great work that was done within the Commission ahead of EuroHPC joint undertaking becoming autonomous in September 2020. And I only joined in September 2020 as well. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about today, and a lot of the things that you in the scientific community are going to be able to enjoy with these new machines and that's coming online, comes down to the Commission Connect having done a lot of work ahead of us becoming autonomous. I was fortunate enough to start in September 2020, and the first thing I did was sign a number of procurement contracts in order to start the actual execution of a plan that's been on the way for a long time. We are also in this initial phase, and this is why the new regulation is so important to us. In this initial phase, the current regulation, we have an establishment of 15 employees. So at this point in time, there are 15 staff within the joint undertaking, something that we are very much looking forward to changing, and the new regulation allows us to hire more people. So with that being said, I think if there's anyone sitting watching this and thinking this could be really, really cool to be part of, please keep an eye on our website, because we'll be hiring quite a significant amount of people throughout the second half of this year, as the new regulation allows us to take our staffing levels considerably up. The main raison d'etre of our joint undertaking, again, I think is also worth remembering, because it's very much twofold. On one hand, our mission is to deploy a top-of-the-range supercomputing infrastructure across Europe to support the HPC users, and that very much comes to fruition with the procurements that we're going to be talking about. But at the same time, in parallel to that, the mission is also to implement a research and innovation agenda that will develop a competitive HPC ecosystem and supply chain in Europe. And this, we're not only talking hardware and software and applications, but we're also talking training and skills. And we'll come back to all of that in the following slides. So again, back to who are we? Well, we are a public-private partnership between the Commission, the European Union represented by the Commission, and 33 participating countries. And then we have a private element, 2 private partners that helps us with setting our research agenda and working very actively with us there. So from a governance point of view, we have a governing board that is constituted by the 33 participating states and the European Union, represented by the Commission. And then we have 2 advisory boards, a research and innovation advisory group and an infrastructure advisory group that helps us with putting together the strategic agenda of the joint undertaking. Essentially, in the initial setup, so what we like to refer to as the current regulation, soon to be, I guess, the old regulation, the budget was about €1 billion, but in everything we do, there are funding streams, A, from the Union, and B, from the participating states. So matching funding from participating states. So when we go out and the EuroHPC procures a machine, the European Union or the joint undertaking will fund for the big machines half, and the consortium, the participating states that are hosting the machine, will fund the other 50%. And it varies from procurement to procurement and from call to call, because the same thing holds true for research and innovation calls. There is a co-funding between the union and the participating states. So again, we are located in Luxembourg. We have offices provided to us by Luxembourg, and I'm very happy that they're very nice offices, and they were inaugurated. It was a bit delayed because of the current COVID situation, but we had a very successful ceremony on the 3rd of May, where our offices in Luxembourg were inaugurated. So coming back to what it is, the one of the fundamental pillars, which is the infrastructure side, let me give you an overview of where we are. So we have there are a total of 8 hosting entities that have been selected by the joint undertaking to host a machine. And these are located in you can see them on the map there. 8 different locations around Europe, geographically spread. The red machines are what are pre-exascale machines and are funded 50-50, meaning that the union is paying, or EuroHPC is funding 50%, and the participating states in that particular consortium that hosts the machine is funding the other 50%. Then we have 5 smaller machines, petascale machines, and there the funding scenario is a little different. The joint undertaking funds 35%, and the hosting entity, or the participating states behind the hosting entity, is funding 65%. At this point in time, a total of 7 procurement contracts is signed, and they're currently being implemented, and I will take you through the status of each of them. We are the 8th procurement, which is Mare Nostrum 5 in Spain. We went through a phase where the call for tender was cancelled, and we're currently we have a mandate from our governing board to look at relaunching that. So we should get to the 8 machines as it was originally envisaged for EuroHPC under the current regulation. And again, at the bottom of the slide, you'll see the funding as it's set out, 163 million euros. Oh, I need to click over there. Good. So amongst the 2 pre-exascale machines that are currently under construction, one is Lumi in Finland, and I know that earlier today you had a presentation from Lumi. It's a crane machine. It's going to be quite an interesting machine. Very GPU based, and based on both AMD CPUs and AMD GPUs. Leonardo will be built by Atos in Italy. Again, also with a CPU GPU, but different. It's NVIDIA GPUs that's going in there, and in general, you'll see that there's been a conscious attempt to try and have diversity in the architectures of the different machines. Amongst the petascale machines, we have Melexina, where I also know that Valentin gave a presentation earlier today to you. Built by Melexina is built by Atos as well. Then we have Carolina, which is an HPE machine, and we have Vega, which also is built by Atos. And as you can see, each of the machines have various petitions in order for us to be able to to run various workloads, but also get experience with new technologies. There's an FPGA petition, for instance, as part of the Melixina. Again, back to this infrastructure serves multiple purposes. Not only is it there to provide the scientists with the computing capacity that they need to do their science, it is also there for us to, for the scientists and the developers to get acquainted with the various technologies that are coming, and so that we can see what best fits what applications, and do a level of experimentation. Discover in Bulgaria. This one is a pure CPU-based infrastructure. And then we have Decalion, which is being built in Portugal, which is based on the same technology as the Fugaku current #1 machine. That's one petition on it, and then there's also a more traditional x86 petition. If we look at it from timeline, because I think that's much more important. Oh, by the way, all of the machines, you can find much more technical details up on our website. So I would encourage anyone that has particular questions or seek particular information for all of what I go through today. Up on our website, you'll find more information, but in particular, in and around each of the machines. The timelines we're looking at right now. So we have Vega, which is already operational, and we have calls out there for access to the Vega machine. This is going to be followed by Carolina and Discover very shortly, because there was a deadline for handing in the slides for this event, which I completely respect. But late Friday, we actually signed the acceptance of both Carolina and Discover. So they are no longer in acceptance testing. They have been accepted as of Friday evening. So we will be working in the coming weeks to get those included, and so we can start seeing applications on those. That will be followed shortly by Melixina as well. I'm sure we're in the final stage there as well. And then you will see later in the year, we have Decalion planned for the end of this year, and then we start seeing Leonardo and Lumi also coming online. A lot of work is going into these projects at the moment. We've seen the first equipment go into the Lumi data centers, so it's all progressing well, and I very much look forward to having these machines also join us. As we in all of the it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone that there's a green agenda behind what the joint undertaking is doing. There's in general a green agenda within the European Union, and the EuroHPC is of course no exception to that. Care has been taken in our procurements to be mindful of energy consumption, not only of the machines themselves, and not only in selecting the machines, but also when the hosting entities have been selected. The various hosting entities were invited to provide creative solutions to the energy and green side of running a data center, and have successfully done so. So, of course, Lumi is a fantastic example, being next to a river, getting the power via hydro, and I would almost say open the window to cool the machine, although it's not as simple as that. But also the hosting entity here in Luxembourg, for instance, we're getting the energy from a cogeneration plant, and similarly for the site, the other sites, there are good stories on the energy side for each of them. So that's on the procurement side. Then we'll get to the research and innovation agenda, but there also there's a significant focus on doing research into energy efficient architectures, and you will see we're both looking into ARM as well as RISC-V, but we're also in general looking at it, cooling solutions, etc. This is an area in which Europe is generally leading, and we want to make sure that we continue to be in a leading position. So we have all of these machines, one of them operational, three joining very shortly. If you're sitting out there with an application to run, how do you get access to this? The access to the EuroHPC machines is governed by an access policy that has been agreed and adopted by our governing board. The current version of the access policy can be found on our website, and I would encourage anyone who has a need for computing power to have a look at that one. It is a work in progress. So the current access policy has very deliberately been given a sunset date by the end of this year. So we are going to be learning from these initial machines as they come online, and the aim is to learn from experience, perhaps amend the access policy, and then the governing board will be invited to adopt a new version somewhere in the latter part of this year. For all of you out there that have been used to getting access to supercomputers via Praise, the good news is we're working very closely with Praise. Praise has done a fantastic job in the past years managing the access to supercomputers, and we have made a very conscious decision to piggyback on all of that knowledge and experience and work with Praise. So it is Praise that's doing the review and is doing the practical implementation of the access policy on behalf of EuroHPC. So all of you who've tried that before, I think this will give you a comfort factor about how to do this. And again, there's so much experience and expertise within Praise that it would be silly not to tap into that, as it is a model that has been proven well. What is a little different is, which is seen in the access policy, is the final say. You can say the final granting is of the time is with the EuroHPC governing board. But all of that you'll find detailed in the access policy. So right now we have benchmark and development calls open, and if you looked at the previous slide, you'll see what they match to in the Praise terminology. But at this point in time, the only system that is available is the Vega system. Again, 3 more will follow very, very shortly. And then what we are currently looking at within the JU is the regular access calls. So not benchmark, not development, but more for the real applications to run. And we're looking to announce a deadline for those in September. this needs to pass by our governing board. I do think it is important to just stress that we do not expect to have any extreme scale calls within 2021. As you saw, the timelines for the pre-exascale machines, there will not be a capacity available for such calls within 2021. Moving to the research and innovation agenda of the EuroHPC, say again within the current regulations, so this is within 2019 and 2020, we've had 4 calls in total that we've closed and evaluated, and we have 26 grants that are under implementation. The total budget is 272 million euros. Again, there's a level of co-funding depending on the project between the union and participating states. Within some of the within some calls on the research and innovation side, we do have some calls that EuroHPC funds 100%, and one of them is actually the call for a master's. EuroHPC Masters. It does state on the slide that it's currently open, but you can also see that the deadline has now passed, so it is closed. But we now need to go through the evaluations. We had a total of 6 proposals, so I think that is a testimony to the interest in the skills and education field, something that we do feel in general there's a lot of support and a lot of interest in skills and education, and also a lot of requirement and need in the community. So we'll go through in more detail these calls, but it's been we've had pilots for the European, so we 2 calls for advanced pilots towards European supercomputers. We've also a pilot in quantum, and we work within the low EPI European low processor microprocessor, and I'm delighted there's going to be a talk later on that subject. I'll go through these in more details, but I think the important thing is here, the important message I want to bring across is that we're trying to cover the whole ecosystem. So it's not just technology, it's also research into how we use the technology, and then it's software and applications. And this again, as we are a public-private partnership, there's focus also on industrial codes and applications. And then last but definitely not least, skills and support to the users is high on the agenda. If we look at the research agenda in general, how it lines up with the political priorities of the European Union, well, clearly a key element is to contribute to the technical sovereignty of the Union, of Europe in general. It is to support the digital transformation and thereby the economy. And then it is also to support the Green Deal, not only in the procurements, not only in the research into low power processors and so on, but also in the access to machines, initiatives, projects that are helping climate change and so on, or energy usage, projects, applications that are helping these, of course, high on our agenda. the research and innovation actions are very much focused on, they're divided into three pillars. So we have technologies, we have applications, and then we have leadership in HPC. And we very much look at using co-design principles, meaning we try to, in the calls, we try to bring different communities together and have collaborations between them. And of course, we also look to join up software and hardware development. In the call that was named toward extreme scale technologies and applications, we awarded a total of 20 grants. The call was focusing on how to use the extreme scale machines as they become available, looking at the applications, and also focusing on data and the data-centric environments around the applications, but also we've also looked at industrial codes and what it would take to get some of that ready for the future machines. And as I said, a total of 20 grants were awarded. We also had 2 grants awarded in the call for advanced pilots towards European supercomputers, and we had a quantum simulator. And then we're running phase 2. We've had a call out for phase 2 of the EPI, and that has been evaluated, and we're currently in discussion with the consortium to start that. Then I apologize, there should have been a bit of a gap on the slide down to the next 2 bullets, because they of course are not about technology, they're about the leadership and use of HPC, where we've had calls out that are funding the HPC competency centers, as well as stimulating SME usage of HPC. If we just look at it in broad numbers, within the grants that have been awarded, we're talking about participation of 33 European countries, a total investment of 280 million euros. So that means that the EuroHPC contribution is more than 140 million euros. And we have 20 research projects, we have 3 pilots, and then we have 3 actions that are coordinating initiatives across Europe. If we dive a little more into, that was a mistake. That thing, is it building up? Come on. Okay. I don't know how to make that. Okay, we'll go straight to this one. I think the other thing which I want to put across to everyone out there is just because EuroHPC has started doesn't mean that there's a lack of continuity in the investments that have been made previously by the Commission and the European Union in different projects. We're very much continuing, and we intend to also continue within EuroHPC this funding a stream of projects that rely on the results of previous projects. And just to give a couple of examples, prior to EuroHPC joint undertaking, there were a set of projects that very much defined the modular supercomputer architecture, so the deeper and deepest projects. Well, we're continuing the work within the joint undertaking with Deep Sea, IOC, and Red Sea projects. And equally on the microprocessor side, there's been the Mont Blanc suite of projects where we're continuing with EPI. EPI phase 1 was done within the commission, but we are continuing with EPI phase 2. So although you can say a project in itself does not last a decade, multiple projects, if the deliverables set up correctly, we will. There is continuity. It is realized that it takes time to develop these things. So this will continue to be supported within the joint undertaking as well. And examples of projects on the as I said, Deep Sea, IOC, and Red Sea, which are coming out of the deepest set of projects. The Deep Sea will continue the work within the modular supercomputing architecture. IOC will look at the file systems, how we store data, and so on. And then we have Red Sea that will look at the high-speed interconnect. And all of this is to try to get us ready, of course, for the development of bigger and faster machines. On the software side, and these again are just examples, we have the Maelstrom project that is doing machine learning, looking into machine learning, particularly for climatology and meteorology and climate. And sparsity, that's looking at the more at the computational models of sparse computation. So I think, and there, again, I welcome everyone to visit our website where you'll find the full list of the projects with descriptions. Another document, if you wish to have a good overview, we've just published our very first annual activity report. And it too includes a chapter that lists with a short description each of the projects that we're funding. And then on the pilot systems, so pilots to exascale, we have 2 pilots that we're funding. One is very much leveraging the efforts of the EPI project. And then we have a complementary pilot that will be looking at RISC-V, using that as an accelerator. So very interesting hardware developments getting us ready for the exascale. And then we're taking a sneak preview into what we will be doing a lot more of under the new regulation, and that's quantum. So we will have our first quantum infrastructure with that pilot project. On the application side, I don't think I need to tell anyone in this forum what supercomputers are used for, which type of applications supercomputers are used for. I'm sure you are all well aware. I think the purpose of this slide is just to tell I wouldn't say the obvious, but really what we wish to also bring across is it's not just the traditional science. We also have an industrial component, and that will shine through in everything we do. So very much from our side, applications, we have science, we have the industrial elements and industrial codes, and then we will get into safety and security as well. We haven't quite touched that yet, but that is definitely on the radar as well, that to address this. If we look at just a couple of examples, we have Legate that is looking at computer-aided drug design. This, of course, I don't think anyone needs to be reminded just how important this such a project all of a sudden became with the current situation, and how important supercomputers are in this. It's quite an interesting project, and just became even more relevant with the events of COVID. And then on the industrial side, one example of project we're funding there is NEXTSIM, that's looking at replacing the solver within these types of applications, and actually the results of this will become part of a commercial product. That is the intention of. So quite interesting to be supporting not only the science but also the industrial side. And then leadership in HPC. I think the important thing there really is we have a network of 33 competency centers around, in 33 participating states. The work of the competency centers started in September last year, and their role will only grow as the machines come online, as EuroHPC, as we expand our work. I see very much the role of the competency centers becoming more and more important. These competency centers serves really as the national one-stop shop for your supercomputing needs, and we're working very closely with them. And and this is something I see us continuing to expand our use of that, complemented by a set of centers of excellence as well. As part of the not only are we funding the work, and again, when I say funding, of course, it's for some of the projects there's a level of co-funding, but not only are we funding the competency centers, but also the coordination between these competency centers, so that they truly become a pan-European network. Again, back to industry, and especially with the focus that there is within the European agenda on small and medium enterprise industry or enterprises, we also have the Fortissimo for EuroHPC that is directly targeting small and medium enterprises and their use of HPC, and to try and get to bring HPC to these smaller enterprises, and there it's been very successful with 68 proposals. So really, I would say a success. I know that there was a presentation earlier on that as well. So, but really, I'm really happy with I think with initiatives like this. And then to give you all a bit of an outlook, I've hinted a couple of times about the new regulation. I'll give you more update on that. But essentially, with the new regulation, we will continue to procure infrastructure. We will go beyond the current machines and go into exascale and post exascale. In order to support that, the research and innovation agenda also needs to then start looking into how do we do that in an energy efficient way. We also need to look at the software stack as the machines get bigger, as the programming model gets more and more complicated with different accelerators and so on. All of that, we need to look at the software stack, and research needs to be done into that. But again, also HPC is without the applications is pointless. So we are also very much looking to continue to support the application side, and with tools, and then finally we have the leadership in HPC, where we will continue to invest heavily in the skills and education. So, new regulation. The final, what happened just before this call was that the new regulation is now published in the official journal, which I am told means that in 20 days it will come into force. What that means is that we will have new additional areas that we will work in. And basically, if you look at our mission, it has been expanded to also include federating and securing and hyper-connecting the supercomputers. So we will be looking at bringing the supercomputers into a common federated setup. We will also be looking into quantum infrastructure. That has been included in the new regulation. EuroHPC will provide quantum infrastructure like we are providing HPC. So all of that means, you can say, more work, but luckily it also means that we will be able to get more staff. So what you will see as soon as this new regulation is adopted, and we've had our first governing board, is that the joint undertaking will start recruiting a significant amount of people. Exactly how many we'll be recruiting in the first shot, we're still finalizing, but it's definitely probably about 30 staff that we will be looking to get in as soon as possible in order to support this very ambitious agenda and all of the new areas that we will be embarking in. You will also see, if you look at the new regulation, that we're now we're now being seen to have 5 pillars instead of only 3. That's because some things have been singled out, so that because they are that important. And so you'll see we'll be focusing on skills and education, we'll be focusing on applications, infrastructure, technology, and federation. And then in parallel to that, we also will be embarking on international cooperation. Money-wise, this is how it looks that it's going to be divided. Again, please remember that all of this comes with a co-funding by the participating states. So when a machine gets bought, which you can see there's 2 billion estimated to be set aside for that. Well, there would be another 2 billion coming from the participating states for whoever wishes to host one of these machines. So on that, we're not going to use the full 2 billion, as you can see, for just for infrastructure. We are also looking there for the federation, and skills and education is also going to be paid out of the debt program. We will get money from Horizon Europe for the more for the research and innovation. And again, you see that we'll be focusing on technology applications and international collaboration. And then Connecting Europe is where we're looking for funds to do the connectivity. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Again, I would, anyone who has any need for further information, first of all, please visit our website. But if also don't be a stranger, reach out. We're more than happy to speak to anyone out there. Send us an email on info@EuroHPCJU.europa.eu. And we'll be very happy to answer any questions you have, if we're able to, of course. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anders. That was fascinating to see what sort of huge strides Europe is taking in our attempts to play the major role in the developments, worldwide developments. So we know very well that USA has been the leader for ever since this field started. Yes, and of course China caught up very, very fast about 10, 12 years ago. Japan has always been, extremely strong contender. First time with the Earth simulator back in the 90s. That was a major shock, and Japan remained and remains actually as #1 system in the world currently. So that's a very, very interesting playing field, and fascinating story for all of us involved with HPC, meaning that we can be assured of good employment and very fascinating, very, very interesting work. So great choice. Thank you. So we have some questions. I believe that in your last slides you have answered some of that, but we have one question from Maciej Cytowski, our good friend from ICM and POSI Center. To what extent are various EuroHPC systems integrated from a researcher's perspective? Software development environments, computational job policies, data access, are those governed by various consortia separately? So that's the policy, isn't
it? Yeah. So I mean, we need to distinguish between the again, when we are funding a machine, and because of the co-funding, that also means that well, if I fund, or if EuroHPC funds 50% of a machine, that also means we control 50% of the horsepower of the computational time. So everything I said about how to get access to the machine, that is about getting access to the joint undertaking share of the machine. The consortium that has funded the other part is they're absolutely free to do what they wish to do with the other part of the machine. But the part that EuroHPC has funded and therefore owns is governed by the policies that are being put forward by EuroHPC and the governing board.
Right. Okay, now we have another question from Henry Strauss regarding Red Sea. Does Xtol play a role here, or will it come from Atos? Sorry if we can't hear.
So there, I would have to refer to the project themselves. That I cannot answer to.
What do we have? Alice Panier, is there any chance the UK will join EuroHPC?
It's a good question. I think there's probably always a chance. I'm not gonna what should we say, predict the future. As I understand it, there are a number of other things that needs to fall into place before that is a possibility. But if they do, they would be welcome.
Right. Yeah. So let me check if there. Well, I'm very pleased to see this recent ruling directive. Perhaps some remnants of InfiniCortex project will find their way, in the federation of HPC resources. I would be absolutely, over the moon to see that.
Let's face it; it makes a lot of sense. We need to do it. How exactly we're going to do it, we still need to get the right people on board to be able to say. So, I mean, if I may just qualify, as I said, we're 15 people in the joint undertaking, but everyone needs to remember that includes, everyone doing the accounting, everyone answering to auditors and so on. So in reality, amongst the people who've been working directly on the procurement and on the grant, that's 4 people. The rest of the staff are very much doing all the hard work of actually running the business side of it, making sure our invoices, that we pay our invoices, get paid by the different participating states, and so on. All of that back office, which is required in order for us to successfully we successfully passed our first audit by the European Court of Auditors. So, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So I can't wait to get more people that comes in, not only to help behind the scenes, but also to help with all the work we now need to do to make the ecosystem larger and better.
Right. Anders, last question perhaps. How do you see the problem with the Barcelona Supercomputer Center being resolved? How soon we'll see some sort of pragmatic final resolution of this issue?
So it is. I think it's going relatively well from the point of view that the funding entities, and again, remember the machine in a particular place is funded by the hosting consortium 50%, the union 50%. They earlier last month it was agreed to cancel the procurement as it was seen that there were some shortcomings in the technical specs as the world had moved on, and that was agreed. And in a governing board, the joint undertaking was now given a mandate to start looking at relaunching a procurement. So there will be an eighth machine in Barcelona. Little too early to give many details, but essentially we're working on that, and it will be for the autumn now to get this resolved. But I think everyone is collaborating and everyone wishes this to be a success.
Thank you.